Now then, do you ever find yourself feeling drowsy during the day? Do you ever fall asleep without warning? Well, for years, Anu Bhatia struggled to stay awake, to wake up first of all and then stay awake. Now, fortunately, she's been diagnosed with sleeping disorder, hypersomnia. Her drowsiness is finally under control. We're going to be talking to Anne in just a moment, though. First, though, here's how it affects her life.
When my alarm clock goes off in the morning, I don't wake up. I can sleep through it for up to 2 hours, sometimes longer. And people say, why don't you just get up when your alarm clock goes off? I would love to do that, but it doesn't penetrate my consciousness. It can take hours before I even am aware that it's going off. I also set alarms on my mobile phone, and I'll try and have it somewhere nearby so that I can reach it when I wake up, but quite often I'll just have it in my hand and it'll be going off and I won't realise. In my job as a journalist, I spend a lot of time looking at a computer screen and I will find myself nodding off. I have to try and have a fan blasting in my face so that there's cold air to keep myself awake. And sometimes I just have to get up and walk around because I can feel that I'm about to fall asleep. Sometimes I might be at someone's house for a social event, say a dinner party, and I will fall asleep. I think people find it quite rude sometimes because they think that I can't be very interested in what they're saying if I'm falling asleep at the table or at the bar.
Well, Anne Bhatia joins us now, who suffers from this hypersomnia, and GP Dr. Anu Bhatia. Thank you very much for coming in. There's part of this, Anne, that we kind of sit and laugh about because it seems so extraordinary. We could be chatting to you and you might just fall asleep. But it's not funny, is it, for you?
And I think there's sort of a lack of awareness where a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, sleepiness, everyone gets tired, how can that be an illness? And it does seem quite comical, but the actual reality is it can ruin someone's life.
In terms of you and your sleep patterns, what's the longest you think you've ever been able to sleep for? 24
hours, if not longer.
You've actually managed to sleep through for 24 hours?
There was a day once where I woke up at 11 p.m.
Which is an extraordinary thing. Was this at a point where you had been diagnosed, or was this when you were still trying to get your head around the fact that you were tired a lot?
This was before I was diagnosed. I've only actually been diagnosed very recently, but I've sort of had these problems for a very long time.
And what's the worst way you'd say it affects your life?
I think it's the everyday reality that I just feel that I'm not getting as much out of life as I could be because I'm tired or because I'm sleeping for half a day when I'd rather be doing something else. And I look back a lot and think about all the time that I've sort of wasted being tired.
And of course you work as a journalist, and before you were diagnosed, before you had some way of controlling this, what did you do to try and keep awake?
I drank an awful lot of caffeinated drinks, which aren't really a great way of managing it, but it was sort of the only option there. And I sort of spent a lot of time with kind of fans blasting on my face. I'd go out for a walk if I felt sleepy, but the result of that was I spent so much time trying to stay awake during the day that sometimes I'd sort of spend the whole weekend asleep trying to kind of catch up.
So it had a massive knock-on effect that your personal life was just ruined completely.
Pretty much.
You didn't get a chance to have your own life. What was it like when you finally got diagnosed?
It was a relief just because for a long time I'd been going to the doctor and they'd been saying, well, you're not really ill, you just need to try harder to get up in the morning. And finally to have someone say, right, we've done tests, here's the evidence, you actually do have a sleep problem and we can give you some treatment, is just such a relief.
And what does that treatment involve?
I'm now taking a stimulant drug called modafinil, and what that does is it keeps me awake during the day and it makes me more alert, but it also makes my sleep at night more productive.
Right.
So in turn it's then easier to wake up in the morning.
Sure. Which obviously all helps. Dr. Bhatia, this is more common than we may think.
I think Anne's one is quite rare, but certainly hypersomnia is very common, but I think it's quite underdiagnosed, and it's easy to confuse it with just being tired, having a late night and sort of catching 40 winks. You know, these are people who really do have a problem and feel very, very chronically fatigued and need to sleep all the time. I think perhaps health professionals aren't fully aware of it, so it's probably more prevalent than it is, but it's just not being picked up.
So what are the symptoms that some of our viewers at home might be thinking, maybe I've got this?
3 main symptoms. The first one is the sleeping at night for long periods. Most of us get on average about 8 hours. People with this condition can sleep sort of 12 to 14 hours. Secondly, they wake up feeling very, very unrefreshed and they have a symptom called drunkenness, sort of sleep drunkenness, and they can be very disorientated. And thirdly is the excessive daytime sleeping. They just fall asleep at, you know, they could be in the middle of a meal, they could be talking to you and they'll just be falling asleep.
And has that ever happened to you? Have you genuinely done that to people?
There are some situations which sound funny when you relate them now, but I once fell asleep on the toilet for 6 hours, which, although it sounds comical, the actual reality is that it's quite scary sometimes.
And very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I know, I can't imagine what it's like
true.
trying to get up. And equally, if you're on your own as well, I mean, having been diagnosed, being able to take the stimulant, will that now allow you potentially to start a family, or can you see the future being a lot more, sort of, having a lot more potential?
It's actually quite hard to sort of think about, because the problem is the treatment available you can't take if you want to start a family. So at the point where I want to do that, I will actually have to stop the treatment, which is obviously quite a tricky decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, hopefully you'll be able to make the decision when the time comes. But thank you very much for coming and telling us your story. Thank you very much as well, Dr. Bhatia, as well.